Hello, it is Saturday. We have been watching the NFL draft here in Steubenville, Ohio. Chuss has been watching it from his basement in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And we're going to do a little recap. We got rounds 1 through 3 that have already happened. Round 4 is going on right now. I'm watching it to see if anything big happens. Haven't seen anything notable so far since we started recording, but
I
there
mean,
has been some.
kind of. I mean, I would say Stetson Bennett getting drafted by the Rams is kind of relevant in some aspect, just because homie was supposed to go in like the sixth or seventh round. He wasn't supposed to go that high. So I feel like that was a surprise for me because, I mean, granted, the Rams definitely need a quarterback or some quarterback help, considering, Stafford's getting a little older and stuff. But I didn't expect them to go Stetson Bennett route. I feel like that was kind of an interesting move, in my opinion. I feel like everybody else has been on par, but I
That
felt like Stetson Bennett was a stretch. And then literally like 10 seconds later, they were like, oh, and we got a trade. The Eagles have just acquired DeAndre Swift, another Bulldog. And I was like, oh, okay, Philadelphia. We should just convert you guys to becoming the Philadelphia Bulldogs, considering they have like an insane amount of Georgia Bulldog members on their team. But you know what? That's, you know,
I
here nor
mean,
there.
that didn't happen while we were recording though. That happened before we started recording.
Well,
So
you said you were like nothing really exciting has happened up until this point in the fourth round. So I was just emphasizing that I
I don't think that's
think
what I
that's
said. I don't think
something.
that's what I said. Nothing.
I think that's what I interpreted
I
personally.
said I don't think. I said nothing has happened since we've started recording, other than
Oh,
Yasir
oh.
Abdullah being drafted. But anyway, I guess since you've already touched on Stetson Bennett and DeAndre Swift, we'll talk. We'll start off with that. The Stetson Bennett pick was an interesting one. I'm not surprised that the Rams drafted him. More so surprised that they drafted him when they did. Stetson Bennett is a guy that I personally consider a career backup. He's older. I think he's like 25 because he has the COVID year. And
Yeah,
I mean, people will say, and I know that you're probably going to use this in his defense, he has the national championships. But if we're being
back to
honest,
back.
back to back national championships. But if we're being honest, he has the national championships, or Georgia has the national championships despite Stetson Bennett, not because of Stetson Bennett.
Oh no, I agree with that statement, but I think that because of his experience with that, I think it can help. I mean,
And
I don't think necessary. I mean, he could be a career backup, but I think that Stetson Bennett definitely could start somewhere and do relatively well. I don't think he would be some sort of like generational talent like some of these other players are expected to be. Like I feel like a lot of some of these players that got drafted in the first round, some of them, I mean, I don't want to say any of them like specifically, but I know a lot of people are like really high on like, for example, like Jalen Carter, even like a Bryce Young or a Stroud. I mean, I guess some people have even talked about AR being, generational type quarterback. But I mean, I think that, I don't think Stetson Bennett will be a generational per se, but I definitely think that if he is given a start or given a chance in LA or anywhere else at some point in his career, I think he could be like a very decent quarterback, maybe even like a Kirk Cousins equivalent or like a Tannehill, someone that does really good, maybe not get their team to that next level. But since he has playoff experience, we really don't know yet. I mean, there's a lot of unknowns, but we're going to just assume that the Rams run with Matt Stafford. Obviously, they're not going to run with Stetson Bennett. I would assume not. I mean, I feel like that would be a little silly, but I mean, he'll be there. And for all we know, he could just be really good. I mean, hope for him.
yeah, I mean, I'm not. I don't think he's a bad quarterback. Obviously, he's at the NFL level. And my mock draft, I believe, most specifically the one that I did on the Cardinal Rule on March 27th, was I had the Bengals drafting him in like the seventh round as a backup because kind of what you said, he's already been on that national stage, so he's felt the pressure. And so I wanted the Bengals to get a guy who has been in that situation and they can throw him into the game and he's not gonna like freak out. He's gonna be able to play. He's gonna know what's going on. That okay. Having him replace Matthew Stafford, though, I don't know about that. That seems like a little bit of a reach for me.
Hey, the only benefit was is they did say that, I mean, we don't we know how his career has gone up into this point, but Dak Prescott was also a fourth round draft pick. So Stetson Bennett could be on a level where he might be like a Dak Prescott. Now, Prescott hasn't really done a ton, but hey, you know what? If Stetson Bennett gets to that level, that might be a really good quarterback for the Rams, a team that has an okay team. So, if you can make it to a divisional round and lose every single year, that's pretty good. So,
Well,
kind of.
let's move on to DeAndre Swift, and DeAndre Swift is tied up with the Jahmyr Gibbs pick, who was a guy I wanted the Bengals to get. I thought Jahmyr Gibbs was going to be there at pick 28. He was supposed to be an early second, late first pick, and I was like, he's right there. We've got him. This dude's a great pick. Bijan Robinson went 8th overall, and I was like, okay, that makes sense. He's, generational running back. Okay, I can get behind that. But even people were saying that's way too high to draft a running back. Atlanta, what are you doing? And I was like, they're going to be fine. I did not think Jahmyr Gibbs was going to go this high, though. And I definitely didn't think he was going to Detroit. They had DeAndre Swift. They had David Montgomery. And then they were adding a guy in the first round with their first pick. It's like, what are you doing?
Yeah. I was like, when I was going through it, I don't exactly remember who I was expecting them to draft. I think it might have been I don't actually remember who I was expecting them to draft, because I thought it was going to be a cornerback or in the earlier part, but then in the 12th round, or in the 12th pick, I just wasn't expecting that, you know. I was expecting them to go more like defensive route rather
Oh,
than a
yeah, for
running back,
sure.
because I think they could use a lot of help on defense. And their running backs aren't bad. David Montgomery, solid back in Chicago. He played very well there. Granted, he had some injuries and stuff. Nothing that ever really could hold him back other than the injuries. I feel like he was always a solid guy. Even back when you go as far as like Tariq Cohen, whenever he was there with Chicago, I felt like that was just a very solid duo that they had running there. I think if you had him running with DeAndre Swift, I felt like Detroit doesn't need to worry about that right now. They've got him on Ross St. Brown as a wide receiver. Like, they might need to make some adjustments on offense, but nothing huge. Work on that defense. And when they drafted that running back Gibbs in the 12th overall, I was like, is that
That's brave.
brave? Yeah, that's a good word.
That's
I think it's bold.
it's
It's a very
brave to
bold.
draft a it's brave to draft a running back in the first round, let alone drafting him in the top 15.
Yeah, it was a very high pick, considering, like, obviously we've already talked about Bijan. Like, we know that he is expected to be like some sort of generational, like, crazy player. And Atlanta drafting him that high, I really thought he was going to fall a lot further. For some reason, I had him falling in my mock draft to, like, I think the 17th or 18th pick, just because, once again, kind of bold sometimes when you pick a running back in like in the top 10, unless they're like dang good. And Bijan definitely is dang good, but like, I didn't know if teams were going to invest in him that hard. But then seeing, excuse me, and then seeing Gibbs going to Detroit in the 12th pick, I was just stunned. Very bold. Was expecting him, like you said, around where the Bengals were going to pick, maybe even falling into the second round. But it was definitely a very interesting pick. But I guess, let Detroit cook, I guess.
The Yeah, so that was a weird one. And then something I didn't expect to happen was the Texans.
Oh
Texans
yeah,
played
that.
this smart, I think.
hmm I agree with that.
Um,
I was a little,
they
frustrated at first, because I was like, tired of seeing the Texans on the
they
clock. But
picked C.J. Stroud, and then immediately they traded with the Cardinals, which we knew they were going to do. The Cardinals were going to trade back. The Cardinals traded back twice, like I had them in my mock. Just saying. But um, they got Will Anderson Jr. as well. So they got two great players, two top five
I
players out of
very
this
much
draft.
agree.
And I don't know if Chuss is lagging right
Yep.
now. We were
hmm
having that problem earlier. But Will Anderson Jr. is a generational guy who, in a lot of the mock drafts, a lot of the analysts were saying, hey, you have to pick between either a quarterback or Will Anderson Jr. You can't have both. And you know what the Houston Texans said? The Houston Texans said, no, we are going to we're gonna get both. We're gonna build a team. That's an insane pick, in my opinion. Will Anderson Jr. is going to be a great player. I'm a big fan of his dad, who played for the Bengals as an offensive lineman. Will Anderson, I think, is going to be great for the Texans. I don't know about C.J. Stroud. he did well at Ohio State, but you know, Texans have a bad history with developing quarterbacks. Ohio State has had some pretty good quarterbacks come out of it recently, though not directly. Justin Fields went there, Joe Burrow went there, but both of them also went to other schools. So CJ Stroud, I think, is a good pick for the Texans. Will Anderson Jr. is a phenomenal pick. And okay, now that Chuss is back, we
Yes.
can talk about your favorite quarterback out of this. Actually, I want to talk about two quarterbacks here because you know more about college. So I want you to tell me something here. First of all, Anthony Richardson, your boy, your favorite player in the NFL draft. If there is anyone you have hyped up more in this draft and said, you know who should have gone into the NFL draft earlier, it's Anthony Richardson. That was all Chuss. I believe he said that multiple times. And then also tell me about Will Levis. He was there
No, no,
round
I
one. Hey, hang on. He Will Levis was there round one. He was in the building. He thought he was going to be a top 10 pick. The media was telling him he was going to be a top 10 pick. And then he didn't get drafted in round one. And he said, I'm leaving. We're going home. And so he wasn't there for round two. But did you see the memes about Will
no,
Levis?
I felt really bad about Will Levis not getting drafted. He reminded me of they according to just storybook stuff and stuff like that, they constantly during like when Aaron Rodgers was getting drafted, they consistently kept showing him in the green room waiting to get drafted, and he just looked so defeated. And it reminded me a lot of Will Levis, where it was just like Will Levis was just sitting in the green room all defeated and stuff, and there was like numbers kept showing up where it'd be like, oh, a 1% chance he would be here at round pick 20. I'm like, dude, come on, man, you got dude's got to be
0.0015% chance that he was going to be here. No,
yeah, and I was like, this is just sad, man. Like, it's sad.
The funny thing about Will Levis, though, was every time they showed him, there was a different girl next to him.
Yeah, but we don't really know. One had to have been his girlfriend and sister.
I know which. I did my research, as all good reporters do. The girl in the red dress was his girlfriend.
Okay.
Her name was Gia.
Gia, okay.
Gia. I believe the other two girls were his sisters. But the meme very quickly became that we are going to draft Will Levis's sisters and girlfriend before we draft Will Levis. And so kind of feel bad for him. I mean, you've got all that media going around talking about you're going to be hype, and then a day later it's we're going to draft your girlfriend. We're not going to draft you.
Well, I mean, they kept showing her on screen. They kept showing all the girls that he was with on screen. So it makes you like constantly. Oh yeah, don't get it. Yeah, I mean, but it's just one of those things where it's like
we're not making fun of them. They're very pretty girls, but it was
you would expect the memes to come. Yeah, you would expect the memes to come, especially when they're only showing the like. I feel like the same thing would have happened if it was like Anthony Richardson, or like if AR didn't get drafted, or even like Stroud, like if he had a bunch of girls with him. Any player that they expected to go high and was showing a bunch of girls with him, I'm sure that it would have been a meme. So
yeah. So tell me about Anthony. We've talked about Anthony Richardson before. We've got a video talking about Anthony Richardson. I think maybe even talking about him going to the Colts, which is where he ended up. But tell me about Anthony Richardson. Tell me about Will Levis. Why do you think Will Levis fell when Anthony Richardson is there? Who do you think is better? Did the Colts make a mistake?
So, I mean, I'm not super high on Anthony Richardson, as I have said in very multiple other episodes. I think that he has some sort of effect right now, kind of based on his combine, which I know we've talked about briefly, just with the combine being in a situation where kind of similar to Zach Wilson, almost kind of, had a really good combine. He kind of boosted up in his draft stock. I don't think that Anthony Richardson necessarily overall after watching his tape is going to be a bad quarterback. I just don't think he is going to be on the level that Stroud and Young will be on at the same time, because I think AR might take some time to develop in Indianapolis just because he's young. I think he should have take the extra year. I mean, he's only a sophomore. He's going to have to take some time to develop. I'm afraid if Indianapolis throws him in too quickly, he's going to not do well. So I would like for him to be developed behind one of the other guys that they have. They have like Gardner Minshew. They have a couple other guys that they can have like mentor him. I think Anthony Richardson is, he's a solid overall player in aspects. And the reason I say that is just because he's had very big games. He shows that he has a very strong arm. He has different, movement styles and stuff that really show that he could be a very good quarterback. However, in my opinion, I feel like we haven't seen enough of him. And I mean, I feel like he definitely could have taken that extra year to really develop himself, and he might have been even a first overall pick rather than a fourth. I mean, he's getting that bag either way, so good for him. But honestly, we'll see how it goes.
You think
But
you think he could have been better than Caleb Williams?
I mean, we don't know because
Well,
he's.
no, we don't know. I just didn't know if you thought
I,
he
I
had better
mean, he could have been. I mean, it's one of those things where it's like anything can happen in college because, Kenny Pickett was expected to be a fifth, sixth round pick by the time his super senior year came around. Then he blew up, just like Joe Burrow. I mean, I've brought those two guys
talent.
up multiple times because they've been two very notable guys that have gone first round that weren't expected to be anywhere near the first round. They're expected to be day three picks, and I think it'll be big. You know, like I think this is very big, and I don't really know where Caleb Williams would have stood against AR. I mean, we'll really never know, but I would like to think that they might have been in the same contention had he awaited a year or two.
Real
As for
quick,
Will Levis,
yeah,
but
before you move on to Will Levis, the Vikings just drafted UCLA quarterback Dorian Thompson.
okay.
So that could potentially end up being Kirk Cousins' replacement a year after they drafted Kellen Mond. So we'll see. Tell me about Will Levis, though. Why did Will Levis fall out of the first round?
So, it's kind of hard to very much, go through the idea of what these GMs are doing. I mean, excuse me. I mean, I really thought Will Levis was going to go to Tennessee in the first round, but obviously he fell and he ended up going to Tennessee anyway. But I really thought that he was going to end up getting drafted a lot earlier. But I think just based on just the different stocks and different things, the different stock value and a lot of these other players at the draft at the time, I think just kind of changed the are you good?
Yeah, they showed that wrong. I was incorrect because of the stream. The Vikings did not draft him. The Browns drafted Dorian Thompson Robinson. So
Okay.
another quarterback is in Cleveland.
Oh, lovely. Well, good for Cleveland, I guess.
But continue.
But I think with Will Levis, I think, I think he's kind of similar in a stat line with Anthony Richardson in some aspects. I think a lot of his numbers, like Stroud and Young, obviously we're going to go top. Like you knew that there are teams that needed quarterbacks, Houston and Carolina being those teams, and they had the numbers and they had, and Bryce Young had won Heisman, and there's just been a lot of amazing things that have happened between those two quarterbacks. And I think with Will Levis, I think the reason that he fell out was just because, you know, his numbers are kind of not the same. I feel like, he didn't play for one of those bigger colleges. He played for, what was it, Kentucky, I believe. Not that Kentucky's a bad team. It's just Kentucky's not on that same level as like Alabama, Ohio State, some of these teams that are getting like a lot of these players. I mean, Kentucky didn't have like a phenomenal year. Like it wasn't like, as I always love going back to, Joe Burrow and Kenny Pickett because of our quarterback comparisons. They didn't have like a huge year where they won anything like major. Like we won the ACC championship, you guys won the national championship with LSU. So
Kentucky's in the ACC as well, though, aren't they? Or are they in the?
I don't think so.
Are
I
they?
don't.
Okay,
I Louisville is though.
maybe that's
Ken,
what.
Kentucky Wildcats are. I thought we're in like the
Are they in the Big Ten?
big. I thought they were. I don't know conferences off the top of my head.
It won't let
They're
me.
in the Eastern Division of the Southeastern Conference.
So they're in the SEC.
Yeah, they're in the SEC.
Okay,
So
okay. I mean, that's a good conference, though.
yeah, I mean it's a good conference. It's just one of
Very
those
good.
things where I definitely think that it wasn't like he had some bomb year with Kentucky. It wasn't like Kentucky was in any sort of number things where it's like, oh yeah,
Oh, right.
Kentucky's nationally ranked 9. they're undefeated or anything crazy like that. Like TCU got a lot of guys getting drafted this year because of how well they put on a performance this year. I mean, after all, although they got blown out in the Natty, I mean, the fact that they even made it is crazy. So, you just don't think of that when you think of TCU. You don't think they're going to make it to that point. Whereas like Kentucky, same thing. I mean, for me, it was kind of like a Malik Willis situation where it's like some of these quarterbacks just kind of went really under the radar. And like the only one that really like stuck out to me was Kenny Pickett because of, his like playing style and how well he did. And granted, he didn't win the Heisman. He lost out to Bryce Young, who just got drafted first overall this draft. I think that, some of these quarterbacks were highlighted way too high and may have just dropped in value, not because of, who they are or what it was, but maybe a team's need was greater and they were just kind of banking on him to fall. A lot of teams passed up on him, but a lot of these teams needed other positions. And I felt like they might have not wanted to take the gamble on Will Levis in case he wasn't what they were looking for. Because remember, like some of these quarterbacks that go in the first round, you have to be careful because sometimes, like, granted, they might play for like some random college and they might be great, or they might play for a random college, go in the first round and play terribly in the NFL because they're not used to that style. Now, granted, Kentucky is not bad. I'm not saying that they're bad because, I mean, there are a lot worse teams out there that play
Looks
college
like he lagged
ball,
again.
but I think that Will Levis fell
But
just
yeah,
based on stats,
real quick before he
and
comes
I
back,
think that there were a
The
lot of
Will
other
Levis
higher team
situation
needs at the
is
time.
very
So
interesting
that's where I'm going
because
with it.
he
I don't know where you're at right now. You
okay,
froze on
so
my
first
end
of all,
again.
he got
That's
drafted
okay.
by the Titans early in the second round. But also the Titans drafted Malik Willis last year and they've moved on quickly from him. They've apparently decided that they aren't going to use him as the backup anymore. And I thought that they would go for a guy who was more similar to Malik Willis, more of a mobile guy. Will Levis doesn't strike me as that guy. I see Will Levis as more similar to Ryan Tannehill. I believe this is Ryan Tannehill's last year on his contract, so maybe they're looking for a guy who's similar to Ryan Tannehill because they like the way he played. They're moving on from Malik Willis. I I was never a Malik Willis guy. I will say that. Like I had something in my stomach that was telling me like, hey, he's not going to pan out. I didn't like that he left Auburn and went to Liberty. That struck me as kind of playing at the higher level and kind of moving down. Will Levis, the weirdest thing that I've seen about him is that he puts mayonnaise in his coffee, and that gives me a rumbly tummy. That upsets me. But
What? Wait.
no, no, no,
Backtrack a
no.
little bit.
Wait, you didn't know
What?
this? You didn't?
No, what did you just tell me right here?
Yeah, you didn't know this, dude.
No.
Will Levis has the weirdest eating habits of like anyone. He puts mayonnaise in his coffee. He did it at the draft. They like showed it on the stream. They were like, it showed him with like a Hellman's mayonnaise like bottle, and he put it in his coffee. Not only that, he eats bananas with the peel on. You didn't know that? That was like his whole thing.
No,
Oh
I
my
didn't know that.
gosh.
No.
Yeah, no, he
Maybe
puts.
that's why. Maybe that's why Will Levis. I
That's
had this
why he
whole like
fell.
statistic and logical thing. Maybe the players and teams just thought he was a weirdo or something
That's
because
why
he had some weird.
a
It just,
couple teams did.
I
A couple teams did say that they didn't like his personality.
maybe he just. I mean, maybe he just has a weird person. Bro, I mean, some girl finds him really attractive, even with the Mayo habits. So, and she's a
Dude, she
very good
probably
looking
maybe
woman.
she's the one
So,
who maybe she taught him that.
or maybe he doesn't like coffee, and he drinks it for her, and really just loves the taste of mayo so much that he just puts it in there just to mask
I
the taste of coffee. I like
I can't
what
believe you
was
didn't know that.
yeah, but what was there? But like, what is there a reason to put mayo in your freaking coffee? Come on, dude. There's got to be some sort of like science behind that. There can't be just like it can't be like some people like I know like some of like my family members and people I know put ketchup and like mix it with mac and cheese. I don't personally do that, but like there's a science behind it. It like tastes good for them. But like
Well,
but like I know people that do that, but like it's different when it comes to like mayo and coffee because that's like a something that's a topping that you put
apparently he's
inside a
walked it
liquid
back.
drink.
He has walked it back. I looked up Will Levis mayo and coffee because I wanted to show you the video, but the thing that pops up is a quote from him that said, "Nah, that's just a joke. A stupid thing I did that I thought was funny. I don't actually do it. I'm a one cream, one sugar type of guy." But the fact is, he still did it. And there's also a video of him eating a banana. Well, like, yeah, the dude's a menace. But I think it's
Yeah,
interesting. I don't know who the Titans starting quarterback is going to be next year. Might be Mr. Mayo.
I don't know.
I don't.
Well, I think it'll still be Tannehill, but I think that Levis might get his chance at
I
some
think
point
this
in the
is his
season when
last season.
Tannehill. Yeah, but like I think Tannehill. I mean,
Would
with
you extend
Tannehill's track
Tannehill?
record, I hate to be that guy, but I'm afraid that Tannehill's what?
Would you extend Tannehill? I think
Oh,
this is
would I
Tannehill's
extend
last
Tannehill?
season as a Titan.
Oh no. Well, I was gonna say that with Tannehill, I think that at some point Tannehill is going to get hurt anyway. Like, I hate to be that guy and say that Tannehill is going to get hurt. Like, I really don't. But like, just based on his track record,
Okay.
and I think that Will Levis will start, and I'm hoping if Will Levis shows better playing style than Malik Willis and shows potential, that they probably will just let Tannehill walk. But if Tannehill plays well, gets hurt, and then Will Levis goes in and just doesn't do well, then they might consider extending Tannehill. So I think it's a lot of trial and error based on what's going to happen this season. I wouldn't bank on anything just yet. I think you'd wait.
Okay. Okay. Well, moving on to the very next pick in the second round. The Detroit Lions took Sam Laporta, who was the second tight end off the board after Dalton Kincaid. This is another weird pick for me because I loved Michael Mayer. I was all in on Michael Mayer. My heart was sold to Michael Mayer at pick 28. And because of that, I didn't like Murphy. But I've been won over on the Murphy pick. It makes sense now that people have explained it to me. But I was still like, Michael Mayer, why is everyone, why aren't we, why are we not seeing him? He got picked the pick after by the Raiders, probably, or actually is a Darren Waller replacement.
Mhm.
But I do not understand what the Lions are doing. I do not understand why you take Sam Laporta over Michael Mayer. Michael Mayer, he broke Tyler Eifert's records at Notre Dame at the tight end
Yeah,
position.
I don't know. I mean, the problem is like I don't really know what the Lions were thinking a lot during this draft. I do really like the Brian Branch drafts.
Yeah, I like that pick.
I
That's a
think
good
that
pick.
was a really good pick. The fact that he fell that far is crazy to me, but I think that was a solid pick by them. I mean, obviously, working on that defense and stuff like that. But like, I don't know. I feel like Detroit's just like I don't know who their GM is, but I just don't think he's thinking the right way. Like I think he's
Brian,
thinking more towards
I think his name's Brian Holmes.
like and nothing again. I just don't know like honestly your GM was very focused on the team
Duke.
needs. Yeah, he's very focused. Steelers, Omar Khan, very focused. Traded up offensive tackle. Got some tight end help. We got Joey Porter Jr. Like we're getting players to like actually like help our team a lot. But I felt like in some aspects, I felt like Detroit was just drafting who they thought was best available and just like a Madden for fun type thing. Like I didn't feel like they were taking it seriously. I mean, granted, there might be some crazy backstory behind a lot of these players, but I feel like running back and then tight end and not being Michael Mayer, they better see something in the board. Like I don't know. I just very very shocking. Detroit kind of stunned me yesterday and the day before, and then they picked Brian Branch, and I was like, oh, but now you make a really good pick. Like it just was a weird day for Detroit, but
The Lions picked all the good. They picked good players. They just picked them in the wrong order, especially when you consider who was still on the board.
yeah,
Like nobody that they picked is bad. It's just
it's
like
just
Jameer Gibbs. You could have gotten him later.
yeah, you could have probably gotten him in the second round, like right around the time that you would have gotten. Like I don't think he would have gone any sooner than you know, like maybe you guys, if you
Apparently
guys were like,
12. 12th
yeah,
is
apparently 12, but I think that, I mean, if they wouldn't have drafted him 12th, I think he probably could have been held out until the second round.
for
Um,
sure.
Oh, I just got a notification. My boy from Pitt, Israel Abandakanda, Izzy to the Hizzy, just got drafted by the New York Jets. Big move for the New York Jets. He is a stud of a running back, breaking all kinds of Pitt records this season. Fifth round sleeper running back. He might be a solid guy for the Jets right there.
That means, is he an elusive type guy?
Yeah, he's a tinier running back, but
Okay.
he's got
No, that
speed on
makes
him, and
sense.
he's kind of like a truck, honestly,
They've they've got
for a
Brees
little
Hall,
guy.
so that makes sense.
He
That probably
might
means
be he'll be
Michael
good.
Carter's out of a job though.
Yeah, well, Michael Carter, he's hit or miss, I feel like. But Abandakanda, he really, even for since I watched him since 2020, like his freshman year, and he's a solid guy. I think he'll be a very good running back for the Jets. I just wanted to say that because I'm sure Stan the Jet fan may or may not be listening or watching, but I think he'll be a solid pick. That's what my dad said. That was the text that I got. Thank you to my dad for reporting on that for me. Abandakanda to the Jets in the 5th round.
Perfect, perfect. Well, now we can move on to my favorite pick. When this pick came in, I said I'd sent you a text.
I know you
I sent
did.
a beautiful text. And I didn't even realize this guy. Honestly, I did not realize that this guy was still on the board. I'd forgotten about him. I thought he was gone a long time before. I was so happy when this name came up. I said, we won the draft. I don't care what else happens. We won the draft. He has an awesome last name. We had drafted DJ Turner, whose name is Wandrago, in the 2nd round. And then in the 3rd round, who do we take? Jordan freaking Battle, who I believe was your favorite player in the draft because of Madden. Is that true?
Yeah. He I drafted him as a back in Madden 20. We did a 2023 draft, and or it was either 23 or 20. It was probably 23. And I drafted him, and he was my free safety. I drafted him like 28th overall. Because at the time in 2019, 2020, he was supposed to be like probably the best free safety coming out of the draft. And obviously his stock fell a little bit since then because Brian Branch was obviously the better safety at the time. But dude was a stud on Madden, best safety I ever had. Put him with Minka, it was great. Crazy dude, had 106. It was a pick six, 106-yard pick six in the Super Bowl, and then from there on he was just a stud. And yeah, I mean
Oh
it, it
my joy was
it's
unmatched.
it's it's very disappointing for me because obviously I wanted him to go anywhere else but an AFC North team. But at this point, I've just accepted that all of my Madden players are cursed because Kyle Hamilton was a stud for my buddy Connor, who had him on Madden, and he also played safety, I believe. And Kyle Hamilton is now a Baltimore Raven. And then my favorite player, Jordan Battle, free safety, arguing with Kyle Hamilton, obviously, ended up going to the Bengals. So now I told Connor, because we both had Brew McCoy, who is a Tennessee Volunteers wide receiver, and Jaden Daniels, who is the current LSU quarterback. He had him on both. He had Jaden Daniels, and I had Brew McCoy. I said, I guarantee for some reason that both of those players are going to go to Cleveland next season. Just because it's just cursed. We're just cursed. Like none of these players are meant to be anywhere near Pittsburgh. I'm just thankful that Jordan Addison, who was probably my second favorite player in the draft, ended up going to Minnesota because I have nothing against Minnesota. They're a purple, cool team. They got nice colors. I like the Minnesota Wild. Overall, I'm not upset by that. If he would have went to Baltimore or New England, I probably would have just like
Oh man,
jumped
I
off
love the Jordan
one of the
Battle pick.
bridges over in
I
Pittsburgh here,
even
City of Bridges.
besides
Probably
it
would have just jumped
upsetting
off because,
Chuz.
would have made me really
I
sad.
mean,
But
come on, this is beautiful. I mean, so some Bengals fans, when this happened, they hated it. They were like, "What the heck are we doing? Why are we only drafting defense?" I was like, "This makes sense. It makes sense to me because, um, first of all, we need to draft defense because we're paying everyone on the offense, so we're gonna have to replace some people eventually on the defense. Probably Hendrickson. I'm thinking Hilton, maybe another one who goes. I think Hubbard stays, but DJ Reader is probably another key piece that leaves that we need to replace. Jordan Battle's our Von Bell replacement because everyone's sold on, not everyone, but I'm not personally sold on this yet, but everyone's sold on Dax Hill going to the safety position. He was drafted in the first round last year as a Jesse Bates replacement. I'm not sold on that yet. I am wondering if we could keep him at corner, maybe run a dime package as well, especially against Patrick Mahomes because that holds him up a little bit. But I don't know about Nick Scott, who we brought in from the Rams. So having depth at that position is phenomenal, in my opinion. We have Tyson Anderson from last year too. I mean, we can do whatever we can plug and place whatever we want now. We got Jordan Battle. He could be a starter, in my opinion. He seems like a great player. Um, if Von Bell is his ceiling, that's great. That's phenomenal. That's what we need. I trust in Lou. I think the other Bengals fans should also trust in Lou. This is my favorite pick of the draft so far, up with Charlie Jones from Purdue being second, and it's not even like close because I just see Charlie Jones as a special teams piece right now, unless he ends up being good enough to replace Tyler Boyd. But Jordan Battle, I mean, I talked to a guy who we both know. He played on Jordan Battle's basketball team, and I asked him, I said, "Hey, is he a good teammate? Like, how is this guy?" He said he's an extremely hard worker. He was very athletic, very strong, and he's a great teammate. So hopefully he maintained that credibility on the team. I love the pick. He's my favorite pick of the
He
draft
is.
so
He is a
far.
very good guy. Yeah, I mean, I've been following him on Instagram for a couple years now. He seems like very down to earth, lighthearted guy. Just an overall just solid dude. And I'll never forget when that friend that we both know, I was sitting in the car 2 years ago, and he was like, "Yeah, you watch a lot of college football," because I was heading back for a couple of games because it was Kenny Pickett's super senior year, and I was heading back a lot, very high on Kenny. And he was like, "Yeah, do you know college players?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he was like, "Yeah, do you know Jordan Battle?" And like, I literally lost my mind because it was literally only like a year out from the Madden thing. Because when we were playing, it was 2020, Madden 20, obviously, and it was during the COVID years, 2019, 2020 era, because we got the Madden like in November, and we played it through COVID and all those months. So Jordan Battle was like a very big part of my team. And I think the Madden servers are since down now for Madden 20. I haven't gone on and checked, but Jordan Battle will always have a special place in my heart on that Seattle Seahawks team
Do you
that won 8 Super Bowls,
do you
I
see him as
think.
a Von Bell type guy? Do you think he can? I think he can, based on what I've watched.
Um, yeah, just minus like some aspects of Von Bell, but yeah, I think that he's going to be a very honestly. I think you guys got a diamond in the rough. The fact that he isn't like as high as people are projecting him to be, I think he is going to be a lot better than that third round projection, that third round draft. I think he's going to feel like a first round talent, in my personal opinion. I mean, just by watching him play, like I feel like he always got overshadowed by Branch and just like, just Alabama in general doesn't always shadow their defense. They always shadow the offense. I mean, it's just how it is. But I think Jordan Battle just might be a very good player to help buff up your defense. That really doesn't need a ton of help, but just needed some additions. And I mean, just give them some time. Obviously, they're going to have to work through some kinks and just different things like that. But I think that, I think you got a solid guy. And I have family in Cincinnati, and you're a Bengals fan. I'm a huge Jordan Battle fan. I'm not a Bengals fan, but I'm willing to rep a shirt for the player because I have a Melvin Gordon hoodie in my closet that I don't wear anymore. That's a Chargers hoodie. Am I a Chargers fan? No, not at all. But I really liked Melvin Gordon at the time. And then immediately when I bought the hoodie, he immediately sat out for half a year, and I felt like it was a curse. So I'm hoping maybe if I buy the shirt of Jordan Battle that he doesn't do bad for you guys. I'd rather see him succeed than do bad.
He's
But
gonna be picking off Kenny Pickett. Don't you worry. Who's your
well,
favorite pick that the Steelers have made?
honestly, I think I really like that they traded up for Broderick Jones in the first round. I think that was just we needed tackle help, and I was expecting us to go with Joey Porter, but when they traded up, I was like kind of taken aback a little bit because I was I was just kind of stunned because I was like, who are they going for? I thought they were just going to draft Joey Porter. And then they went and got Broderick Jones. And I was like, you know what? I really like that because we really need, tackle help. You're building up that picket fence, So is what they're calling it. That's what they're calling it. So,
You said
um,
picket fence?
yeah,
Is that a
they're building the
thing? Is
picket
that a
fence.
thing you guys
Yeah.
say?
Uh-huh. It's the
That's
picket fence.
stupid. That's stupid.
Okay, fumble in the jungle.
Yeah, that was when we. What do you mean fumble? Okay, I didn't like that name. First of all, that was not the
Okay,
name I was.
yeah, but
Andrew
like,
Gillis told us that is the one that the defense chose for it.
okay, literally everybody in the NFL has their weird things that they do. I'm not gonna lie, the
Picket fence?
AFC. Okay, the only thing. Okay,
You
also
know what a
I'm not
picket
gonna.
fence is? It is a white fence with a bunch of holes in between the pieces of wood. So yeah,
Yeah,
okay, fine. That's what you guys are building
yeah, we're building a picket fence. It'll be
with a
great.
bunch of holes in it. Got it. Okay.
Yeah, but the holes aren't as big of holes as you think they are. They're going to be good. So, but yeah, that's it. They're calling it that. Dude, his name's Kenny Pickett. What else did you expect from that? But like, you can't tell me that in the NFL they don't have weird things that they do. I'm not gonna lie. Whenever I hear Cleveland go on stage, when I heard them go on stage yesterday and they started barking, I was like, I don't understand. They're the Browns. They're not Bulldogs. Like, I get that they're the dog pound, and I get
The
that, but like,
dog pound with
I
their
know, but
elf at center field.
yeah, and they're barking, and it doesn't. The whole organization doesn't make sense. And like, I'm glad Jordan Battle didn't go there because at least you guys kind of make sense. Like
They're named after a guy who was best known for coaching the Bengals, and it's yeah, and his son owns the Bengals now. So
yeah,
but
but it just doesn't make sense. But then like, and then you go to Jacksonville and they yell like Duval or whatever. They're like Duval or whatever they say, and it's just like every team has their weird thing that they do.
so
So
you like Broderick Jones' pick more than Joey Porter Jr.
I like Joey Porter Jr. I think it's a great like coming home type thing. Joey Porter, obviously linebacker, Steelers, played for the Steelers. Great, little generational talent type thing where he's coming in like a generation, not generational, generation type talent where he's, it'd be like if we got Kenny Pickett Jr. in like 30 years. I mean, it'd just
I
be kind of
wanted
funny.
literally any other team to take him.
Hey man, I wanted Jordan Battle to go any other team but an AFC North team. But honestly, I thought about it and I said, you know what? I'm glad it's not Cleveland and I'm glad it's not New England. Hey, man, hallelujah. That's what I said.
You guys
That's what I
already
said.
got George Pickens, which is Carl
Okay.
Pickens' son from who played for the Bengals.
Yeah. But,
And now
like,
you've got
listen.
Joey Porter Jr.
Yeah,
Might
but
as
you
well have
knew
taken
that.
Will Anderson too.
Well, Joey Porter Jr., you should have expected because, like, he had been visiting with the Steelers. If he would have fallen, and he did, you should have known that they were going to draft him. But I like the Broderick Jones thing because they didn't just like settle into the hype and just say, okay, we're going all in on Joey Porter in the 17th pick because they ended up getting a tackle that is going to be a stud. And then they still got Joey Porter because he fell. I mean, I think I think that the thing is like the guys, like I remember looking at the comments and on Twitter and stuff like that, they had said that they wanted, Brian Branch to fall to the Steelers. Like a lot of these Steelers fans wanted that. I was like, okay, well, that would be kind of cool, but we haven't even gotten a safety at this point. Like we haven't even gone that route at all. But like it would have been cool, and everyone was like calling Omar Khan a magician if that happened. Now I think Joey Porter falling to the 32nd pick is kind of crazy. I was expecting him to go a lot higher, but I mean, I definitely think there was a lot of solid cornerbacks in the draft in the first round potential that could have went. And honestly, I think Joey Porter might be really good. But I like the Broderick Jones pick a lot more personally. So
okay, I can get behind that. I just really didn't. I didn't want to hear the freaking. They're gonna be all about Joey Porter Jr.
Well,
His dad
I'm also
played for the Pittsburgh Steelers and da 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 da.
Well, I'm not. I was. It felt more like the Steelers always love to do some sort of like pick like that. I mean, they try their best to either do a Penn State guy, somebody that has a connection here. They love their homeboys, and I love that. And I mean, granted, like last year, even for example, the generational thing that they did was it was like instead of like waiting because Kenny Pickett probably would have fell, they drafted him like 17th overall or 20th overall, or whatever pick we had last year, 21st. Draft Kenny Pickett, Pittsburgh Steelers. Like it's cool, and I like that. But like it's one of those things where it's like the Steelers do that every year. They drafted James Conner, the whole cancer story for Pitt when he had cancer and then he came back, blew up the stats, got drafted in the third or fourth round by the Steelers. It's the same gist. It's like, and these players end up being really good, obviously. Like James Conner was great when he played here, and Kenny Pickett's only played one season and he shows promise. So, but it's just the Steelers tend to do that every year, and I'm sure next year there'll be some sort of Pitt guy or some sort of connection somewhere along the way that is going to cause them to draft a player at some point in the draft. It's just how the Steelers are, and you should have expected Joey Porter to go there. If the NFL is not scripted, you should have expected the Steelers to have be picking Joey Porter at that point. But at one point, I did read a report that day, yesterday afternoon, that the Steelers were considering trading the 32nd overall pick.
Well,
so, but they didn't end up trading it. So they wanted that Joey P.
One last thing that I want to talk about is Mr. DeWand Jones out of Ohio State, I believe. He's an offensive tackle. He ended up being drafted in the 4th round by the Dog Pound that we just talked about. Dog Pound with their elf in the middle of the field. Of course, that is the Cleveland Browns. He was a guy who we had mocked going in the 1st round. A lot of people had him going to the Bengals in the 1st round. Big guy. I think he's like 6'8", 300 and some pounds. And everyone was like, why is this guy falling? Especially on Bengals Twitter. They were like, why are we not getting this guy? This guy, come on. And I was like, there's got to be a reason. This guy, 31 other teams are passing on him too. It's not like it's just the Bengals.
Yeah.
Well, apparently, I did some digging. I brought out the shovel. And he is apparently over 400 pounds right now. Refused to work out at his pro day. And has character and attitude issues. So if you were wondering why your team did not draft DeWand Jones, that's probably why.
That's a lot.
After reading that, I'm glad the Bengals didn't draft him. Yes, we have problems at right tackle. Yes, Jonah Williams doesn't want to play right tackle. Yes, DeWand Jones may have maybe been a good guy to have at that position, but I personally don't want that type of thing in the locker room. I don't want the guy who, apparently didn't care enough to keep his weight in a healthy manner for the draft, the biggest day of his life, arguably. And he didn't care enough to do his personality reviews, didn't have respect or something. Like, I don't want that, really. I think the guys that we have right now in Cincinnati are better than having to deal with that. Because you could have a situation where he just is like, oh, you're going to bench me? Okay, then I'm not going to practice or something. Like, something stupid. Who knows what's going to happen with that? And Cleveland took him, and that's a Cleveland Browns move if I've ever heard one.
Yeah.
So, do you want to... Is this the type of guy you want to add to your picket fence?
No. I'm glad we didn't draft him. We got our Broderick Jones here, and I didn't think we needed another. Honestly, kind of thinking about this, it kind of reminds me of the story whenever we traded up and we got Broderick Jones. A lot of people on Twitter were like, bro, we really passed up on Christian Gonzalez. Gonzalez was still there, Oregon cornerback, like he's still there, like should have gotten him, blah, 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 blah. Turned out there was a report that said that Christian Gonzalez had a pretty lackluster interview or meetup with the Pittsburgh Steelers. And like it didn't really strike them one way or another to go after Christian Gonzalez because like they felt like he just lacked something, the meeting didn't go well. And if DeWand Jones literally had a bunch of bad meetings with just a bunch of nobody's gonna want him. And like, don't get me wrong, like you got to know that some of these GMs talk. It's like, okay, yeah, maybe sure. They're not. You know that. They're not going to be like, oh, this is who I'm going to be picking. But I'm sure they're going to be like, that. Did you talk to DeWand Jones? And they're like, sure. Yeah. How did he act with you? Oh, he was aloof. Yeah, he was aloof with me too. Like he didn't seem like he cared. Oh yeah, well at least and like it might not be like the Steelers talking to the Browns or the Bengals, GM, but it might be like just a Steelers guy talking to like the Rams. They're like, did you talk to him? Just
Yeah.
out of curiosity. Oh yeah. So I mean, I'm sure they talk, and I'm
Oh, they
sure they
definitely do.
probably. So I'm sure it was passed along that it was like, yeah, this guy might not be the move.
The Lions GM prank calls people during the draft. So they're all like, he's done that for a few years. They're all buddies with each other. I
So I'm
mean,
sure they've talked. That's
yeah, no,
awesome.
they're not like, they're not saying, hey, we're gonna take this guy at the fourth pick, but they're probably saying like, yeah, we've looked at this guy. This is what we've noticed, especially the guys that aren't in the same conference.
Yeah,
I mean,
I'm sure they talk all the time, and I'm sure, like I said, that's probably where like, you know, some of these players were like some of these players, depending on, and it might have been the same thing with Will Levis. I mean, maybe some people just kind of like swayed like Tennessee maybe to wait, like maybe the Titans had talked to some like maybe like the New Orleans Saints or something, where they were just like, oh, did you guys talk to Will Levis? And they're like, you know, yeah, we did, but like Will Levis, he just kind of his personality is a little weird.
yeah,
And it's like,
personality is huge. Chemistry is huge,
yeah.
especially on the O line. That's a
Well, yeah. Well, that's the thing.
people
You need
underestimate
to
that.
have that.
You need to know, like, having an O line that gets along. That's why when, oh, was it Ted? It was one of the guys they signed last year. I think it was Ted Karras or Lael Collins. When one of the two, as soon as they got there and Joe Burrow had them all come over to his house and everyone on the O line, they came and they hung out and Joe Burrow had dinner for him and all that. I love that because that means you're starting your friendships right away. They're getting to know each other. That is huge. Chemistry is greatly underappreciated. And if you've got a guy, especially at the tackle position, who the other guys don't like, it's like, what are we doing here? Like,
Well, yeah, because like, well, the thing is like it's key because if you want to be protected, like if Joe Burrow wants to be protected by these O linemen, you got to be friends with them. Come on. You can't tell me that like you would go out of your way and break your back and like hurt yourself to protect a guy that you're not really that friends with. Like, granted, you want to win, but like when you have that sort of bond and that friendship with a player, especially a quarterback and an O lineman, that O lineman is going to do everything in their possible power to make sure that you don't get hurt. And they are going to play to their best of their ability. But then you have those lackluster linemen that like don't have that friendship or like don't care. and and that's why like it's so important to bond with every one of them, because and that's why I think like for so many years different O lines were so good. I felt like, just different players, like different quarterbacks and stuff, just bonding with their linemen is huge. It is unbelievably huge. So chemistry is big. It really is. I mean, there's no way to sugarcoat it. And I think a lot of times these team players and a lot of these players and different things in the draft, just I think the reason they're falling, just their personality and their chemistry, and maybe and just so many other different things. So many different
well,
things.
um, that's all I've got for today's show. We're almost at an hour here, so we're doing pretty good. Uh, anything more you want to add, real quick?
No, yeah, Jordan Addison went to Minnesota. I talked about him. Stetson Bennett, Rams. Jordan Battle,
Jordan Battle, Cincinnati
Cincinnati
Bengal.
Bengals. Um, Carter Warren, Jets. Israel Bandicanda, Jets. Two Pitt players going to the Jets, fourth and fifth round. Pretty crazy. I just texted Stan, got a like from him. I said to
Yeah,
take care of
Stan
them.
texted me too.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I think that's it. I think a lot of my players I were really high on, I think are all picked now. I think there might be a couple Pitt players left, but sixth
We
and
didn't
seventh
really
round.
we didn't really talk about him, but I asked Andrew Gillis about the Miles Murphy pick, the Bengals first round pick. I said, "What do you think?" He said, "It's a solid pick." So it's got the Andrew Gillis seal of approval. So,
That's good.
but that's all for today's show. We'll probably talk about the rest of the picks on Monday. So tune in for that.
Yeah,
Thank you for.
and real quick before you go into
Oh,
your
what do you got? What
spiel,
do you got? What do you got? Breaking
I
news.
was gonna
Breaking news.
say if any, well, not breaking news. I wish I had
Tom
breaking
Brady.
news. No
Okay.
breaking news, but I was just gonna say for any listeners out there that that want to discuss more or less about a player that their team drafted or how they feel about a player, you can comment or you can email
Mm-hmm.
us at bullmisspodcast2 at gmail.com. But I will let Josh do in the spiel, but I would love to, hear what your guys' reactions are to your teams picking these players, or if there's just a player or a team that you want to talk about their draft. Like if you want us to talk more about Detroit, or if you want us to talk about, how well we think Tennessee did, or any of these teams, just let us know. Shoot us a comment, or shoot us a DM or a email. So, but yeah, take it away, Josh.
That's right. So, thank you for listening to today's show. If you enjoyed, please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. We can be found anywhere you listen to podcasts and on YouTube at No Butts Show. Our social media pages are No Butts _ show on Instagram. That's No Butts _ show on Instagram and No Butts Show on TikTok. My Twitter is Josh _Butts _2001. Been very busy on there. And if you would like to reach us, as Chuss said, you can email us at bullmoospodcast2, that's the number 2 at gmail.com. Finally, our merch shop, where you can find all the cool stuff to support the show, such as this tank that says God is great, beer is good, football's fun, and Chuss is toxic. The link will be in the description. Go ahead and help us out, buy something. It helps us support the show. It helps me convince my parents that this can become a full-time gig. So help me out. Help Chuss out. That'd be really cool. I mean, you don't have to buy anything expensive. Just buy something. Once again, if you enjoyed today's show, like, comment, subscribe. Until next time, go do something nice for someone.